Hey everybody, how's it going? I wanted to say a little bit about the war in Iran. And there's something about this whole thing, it's not making sense to me. The narrative, things are not adding up. We're over there, the United States and Israel, we're over there right now bombing Iran. We're in a war with Iran because they're saying that Iran was basically on the verge of obtaining a nuclear weapon. Here's the problem that I have with this. We just went to Iran last year and bombed the nuclear facilities, and they told us that those facilities were destroyed. Now, they said they were destroyed. Their nuclear program was set back a few years. Here we are, just a little over 6 months later, and Iran is back on the verge of a nuclear weapon again. They also said that what's going on now, this operation has been months in the planning. It's just been a little over 6 months since we bombed Iran to begin with. So, we're being lied to. If those facilities were destroyed, how has Iran come back in a little more than 6 months to get to the point of being able to build a nuclear weapon? If those facilities were destroyed, why would they turn around and start planning another attack on Iran? Because they said this has been months in the planning. If you've destroyed the sites, why would you turn around and start planning to go back and bomb those same sites again? It's not making sense. There's more to this than we're being told. And of course, this is a war. There's money to be made in warfare. The military-industrial complex, they make money. They're selling weapons and munitions to the government. Those places, they make money. Big banks make money. The government, they go to these big banks and get loans. They don't have the money to pay these weapons manufacturers, these big government contracts. The government doesn't have the money. They go to the big banks and take out massive loans in order to pay for these government contracts, and then they have to turn around and pay back the banks. There's big interest on those loans. The banks, they're making big money on it. Money's definitely a driving factor in this thing. There's always money to be made in warfare. This is Iran. It's obviously a oil-rich country. Oil is important. There's a lot of things been going on with oil. We've had to do that little operation down in Venezuela. There's been all the back and forth things going on over Greenland. There's oil up there. Oil is a driving factor in this thing. If there is a regime change in Iran and we could actually get a more U.S. friendly government set up in Iran, that would definitely, it would be a benefit to the United States. It could really sort of shift the balance of power, at least in that region, the Middle East. Now, there's things like that to consider. What's actually going on here? What's behind all this? There's another thing that's it's sort of in the back of my mind, and I know this sounds crazy, and I'm not saying there's anything to this. And the whole point of this video is not to try to glorify or vilify the war or anybody involved in this. I'm just stating, some things that's been on my mind. There's another thing, though, that's just been in the back of my mind these last few days here, and that is the Epstein files. And it kind of strikes me as strange that we've went back into Iran now at the same time that the Epstein files, things were starting to get a little bit sticky for some people. It's just been a few days since we had former Prince Andrew over in Great Britain. He was arrested for some of his connections with Epstein. We just had Bill and Hillary Clinton pulled in to testify before Congress regarding Epstein and their connections with him. Things were starting to get a little bit sticky, and now all of a sudden we're in Iran. I'm not saying there's a connection, I'm not saying that, but it's just, it does strike me as a little strange. The timing does seem a little weird. That's all I'm saying, people. It's going to be kind of interesting to see. They're saying this war, is going to be 4 weeks, but maybe longer. I see no way you can go into a war and put a timeline on it. We're going to be there, so long, and that's going to be the end of it. It's going to be over. War is a very fluid thing. It changes, and it really depends on how long is the enemy willing to fight. You go back to the Civil War over here. When that started, there were people saying it was going to be a 3-month war. It would be over in 90 days. It wound up lasting 4 years. It's really, I see no way you can put a timeline on how long a war is going to last when you first go into it. It's going to be kind of interesting when this thing does end, if the Epstein files are still being talked about, or are they just going to kind of fade into oblivion, kind of like JFK's brain did. JFK's brain, they removed it during his autopsy, and his brain disappeared 60 years ago, and that was the one crucial piece of evidence that would have proved beyond any doubt what direction that bullet came from, and it disappeared 60 years ago. It's something to kind of keep an eye on. It's going to be interesting to see just what comes about when all this ends, when it does end. Those are just some things that was on my mind, y'all. I just wanted to put it out there. I don't know. I'm not trying to cook up a big conspiracy theory. There's just things about this that's bugging me, just some things that were on my mind. Thanks for watching.